He is currently the professor and head of the department of Government Theni Medical College. He is a nodal officer in NIH Committee, Government Theni Medical College, and nodal officer for COVID, IRCU care and oxygen management, Government Theni Medical College. He is a regular speaker in state level conferences. He did his pain fellowship from Daradia Pain Clinic, Kolkata, and his area of interest interventional pain management, and he is very passionate in teaching for postgraduates in anesthesiology. Welcome, sir.
Very good afternoon to all. It's a very tough time to deliver lecture and pre-lunch and post-lunch sessions. One is hyperglycemia, next one is hyperglycemia. Both are potentially dangerous to take away our concentrations, even for not only for the audience but also for the staff persons also. And I have some contribution regarding this anesthesia orientation course when I am a faculty in prep at Chennai. I had a discussion with Dr. Edward Johnson regarding, there are two academic forums in the north side of Tamil Nadu. One is on race and another is a prep. And there is no academic forum in here in the south side. I suggested you have to create some forum and continue this forum. And Dr. Edward Johnson accepted this. And I think he is a very good academician. He just started this anesthesia orientation course. And first time the anesthesia orientation course for first time in India, in the South Pole of India. That is Kanyakumari. It's a very great achievement. Okay, I come to the topic proper. It is the physiology and pharmacology of neuromuscular junction. Here it is the light microscopic view of this neuromuscular junction. The nerve ending does not come and touch with the fiber. There is something, is gap is there, is it? It's an axon, myelin sheath, and some gap is there, then next muscle fiber. There is a longitudinal section, there is a figure A, and next one is the B, there is a cross section. So this motor unit is called, it's the motor neuron, and the muscle fiber it supplies it. That is called the motor unit. And this motor unit, these muscle fibers are supplying in various ratios. In if 5 movements are needed, it supplies only 2 muscle fibers. If powerful movements are needed, it supplies 1 neuron, supplies more than 2000 muscle fibers, producing very strong movements like the thigh and all those things. And very fine movements regarding eye and facial muscles. Okay, the same picture of this light microscopic longitudinal view, come to the electron microscope, this picture is turned like this. See this picture, there is a myelin sheath, terminal neuron that contains cytoplasm having mitochondria, some acetylcholine vesicles are there, and at the end of the terminal neuron there is an active zone, some vesicles are there releasing some acetylcholine molecules, and there is a gap between these two. There is a gap between this terminal axon and the muscle fiber, and the muscle fiber containing some invaginations. There is a junctional folds, there is a synaptic clefts. This gap is called synaptic gap is there, and there is a crest and fold. There are so many drawings are there here. There are some acetylcholine molecules are there. This is the anatomy of the neuromuscular junction where the terminals have calcium channels and also those things. Acetylcholine vesicles. These are all the reserve pools that are there, and then it's a readily releasable zone, that is active zones at the end of the terminal neurons. Here this one, I like that near to the exocytosis. That will release acetylcholine molecules. Yes, this area. And there are some green shadows are there. There are acetylcholine receptors. They are all present in the crests of these folds. And if you take these two folds to the next picture, that shows that there is an invaginations and subneural cleft. At the crest there are acetylcholine receptors, and at the membrane, at the end, the subneural cleft, there are voltage gated sodium channels are there. There are roughly about 5 million receptors are present in each neuromuscular junction, and for the activation to create an action potential, it needs 5 lakhs receptors to be activated. So this is an these folds are called end plates. These are folds are called end plates. This contributes only about 0.1% of the total muscle surface area. And talking about these receptors, see these receptors here, what? Here, it is coming here now. I am explaining these receptors. There are two types of receptors are present there. One is the mature and another one is the immature receptors. These receptors have 5 subunits. 2 alpha, 1 beta, 1 delta and 1 epsilon, that is adult. That is a mature receptor. And the same next one, that is 2 alpha, 1 beta, 1 delta, 1 gamma. This epsilon is replaced by gamma. That is a fetal type of receptors, that is called immature receptors. So there are, you know about it, these, most of the receptors in the neuromuscular junction is mature. But these immature receptors are present throughout the course of the muscle membrane. So this, the end plate is 0.1% area and more than 99.99%, 9% is fetal type of receptors. It will not be present for all patients. In abnormal situations, these receptors will be present. There will be a very hindrance to the patient and also for the anesthetist. So what happens to the events? Presynapsis, in sense, this is presynapsis, this is synapsis, this is postsynaptic. Postsynaptic membrane, this is a muscle membrane, synaptic cleft, presynaptic. What happens in presynapsis? It is a presynaptic event. So nerve terminal action potential is created, the voltage channel, calcium channel blockers, calcium channels are activated, release more than 100 times of calcium into the cytoplasm, that will activate fusion of the acetylcholine vesicles here, and this vesicle causes exocytosis and release of acetylcholine into the synaptic cleft. This is the presynaptic event happen. So this presynaptic event happen, it continuously releasing acetylcholine that will create action potential, that is called miniature end plate potential. Why it is called end plate? This is called end plate. These invaginations are called end plates. So it will create small end plate potential, it will not cause action potential. Constantly it will release. Suppose if more than 125 vesicles are activated, they will release an action potential. One vesicle of this contain roughly about 10k acetylcholine molecules, 10 to 20k acetylcholine molecules. So 120 vesicles, more than 120 vesicles are activated, that will release acetylcholine that binds the receptor, that is the postsynaptic events. I will come to the next slide. It binds the alpha subunits of these receptors, creating an end plate potential. Suppose if the resting membrane potential is minus 80, to reach this threshold potential of minus 40, it will create an action potential. This create an muscle contraction. So for creating the end plate potential, the acetylcholine molecule to sit on the alpha subunit of the receptor. Two sites are there. This is the binding site for the alpha receptor, acetylcholine receptors. It will create a conformational change in the receptor, producing open the gate. This alpha helices produces this alpha helices. See this? These alpha helices forming the gate. So it sits on this alpha receptor, it will produce a conformational change, open the gate, and ion channels will get inside, create an action potential. That is the basis thing. Once the threshold is obtained, we will create an action potential. That action potential recruits more and more of acetylcholine vesicles to rupture and create an, it will spread along the muscle membrane, releasing the calcium ions from the sarcopenic reticulum by D tubules and creating an action potential, producing actin and myosin complex to contract, producing muscle contraction. There is a postsynaptic events happen. The same thing. Oh, I am going back. So coming to this pharmacology, there are many drugs are acting on this neuromuscular junction that anesthesia you have to know about it definitely. because we are going to give this patient regularly to the patient. This is classified based on the mode of action and their chemical nature. By mode of action, they are classified into depolarizing and non-depolarizing. Depolarizing means creating an action potential, producing contraction. And other is by chemical nature, there is a benzyl isoquinoline and aminosteroid components. These are the only agent that is available for depolarizing agent is succinylcholine. And other agents depends on the short, intermediate, long duration. There is imivacurium, atracurium, cistatacurium, vacuronium, rocuronium and pancuronium is there. So according to this chemical structure, their benzyl isoquinoline compounds are atracurium, cistatacurium, imivacurium, and for aminosteroid compounds, pancuronium, vacuronium and rocuronium. So succinylcholine is the only drug, available drug, will produce action by depolarizing the acetylcholine receptors. They are made up of combination of two acetylcholine molecules, act as a false neurotransmitter mimicking as a acetylcholine. So it occupies the receptor, cheating receptor occupies and creating the conformational change, open the gate, ion flow, producing muscle action potential and contraction. So for regarding the sodium channel, that is the central pore, at rest, all you have to understand this, at rest, in this picture A, the lower gate is open, but the upper gate is closed. In resting position. When the muscle membrane reaches the threshold voltage depolarization, the upper gate opens and sodium ion passes. Shortly after the gate, the lower gate, there is a time dependent gate that closes. There is no passage of sodium ions. So when the membrane depolarizes, and then the gate will open. This is the schematic diagram of this, how the sodium channel works. So what does in acetylcholine receptors, acetylcholine bind to the acetylcholine, succinylcholine binds to the acetylcholine receptors by cheating, because it looks like an acetylcholine molecule. It's a combination of two acetyl molecules come together. So it produces a prolonged end plate potential, because once the acetylcholine is released into this synaptic cleft and attached to the receptor, within 1 millisecond it is destroyed by acetylcholinesterase enzyme, in 1 millisecond. But this acetylcholine is not metabolized by this cholinesterase. It has a very prolonged effect. So sustained depolarization at the end plate, continuous end depolarization, but the nature of the receptors will not allow for sodium channels to continuously pass in. So sodium channel cannot reopen until the end plate repolarizes. So continuous depolarization producing fasciculations. So cannot repolarize as long as the depolarizing muscle relaxes and continues to bind to acetylcholine receptors. And it will produce, it is not repolarized but hyperpolarized and desensitization, resulting in flaccid paralysis. This is the way the acetylcholine produce relaxation. Contraction followed by relaxation. This is called a phase 1 block. Suppose this acetylcholine molecule, we are using this acetylcholine for large dose, more than 4 mg per kg, or by continuous infusion, or by repeated doses. We are all using this. In those situations, it will complexly, it will perpetuate, complex and will confuse the acetylcholine receptor, producing so much of confusion in the receptor and making this phase 1 block to phase 2 block. That is, repeated opening of the channels allows for continuous efflux of potassium and influx of sodium, resulting in there is a commotion and confusion produced inside the receptor, producing abnormal electric balance inside the receptor to make the function something. It is still not, it is understood what happens to the receptor if it is continuously used by infusion or by large doses. So usually this phase 1 reaction, normally the normal evoked stimulus is applied, it will produce a response. After succinylcholine, this evoked response stimulus is applied, it will produce a response, but it is constantly diminished state. That is a phase 1 reaction. If it is given in very large doses or by repeated infusion or by prolonged continuous infusion, it will produce the response is changed to phase 2 reaction. It produces a fade-like response. The response is gradually decreased but not constant. It produces phase 2 response. If the phase 2 response happen, what happens? We should not do anything meddle with the patient. Let them to be here. Commonly, continuously you have to ventilate the patient till it recovers, because the receptor is in very confused state. The only advantage of sexual convulsion is rapid sequence induction and intubation. It is a very good drug, very fantastic drug that will relax our body within a matter of 60 seconds. No other drug in the world will relax the body within a matter of 60 seconds. That is the only major advantage in rapid sequence induction scenario in cases of full stomach, pregnancy, unfostered, gastroparesis and gastrointestinal obstruction. In those situations, our drug is very fantastic, but it has a very, and this is the only advantage, but almost all the other things are disadvantages for this sexual convulsion is concerned. There are the side effects: bradycardia, asystole, premature ventricular beats, fasciculations and myalgias are increasing all the pressures in the body, and hyperkalemia. So FDA has given this black box warning in pediatric group in neuromuscular, undiagnosed neuromuscular diseases. And it will produce muscular spasm, malignant hyperthermia, allergic anaphylaxis. There are so many disadvantages regarding this sexual convulsion is concerned. So regarding this metabolism, it is not metabolized by the sexual convulsion, it is present in the neuromuscular junction, but it is metabolized in the plasma by pseudocholinesterase. So the quality of the pseudocholinesterase determines the metabolism of this sexual convulsion. If it is okay, that is assessed by this quality has to be the dobucaine. It will inhibit 80% of the pseudocholinesterase activity. If it is genotype is heterozygous, there are different in alleles. It will produce only 50 to 60% of the acetylcholine is metabolized. It will prolong the duration of action. Roughly, the acetylcholine is produced at a maximum of 10 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes. But if the allele is different, atypical, heterogeneous, it will take 30 to 30 minutes. It is homozygous, it is prolonged. We don't know. I have the experience of this choline apnea. We have ventilated this patient for full 1 day, 24 hours. So in those situations, you have to be careful regarding this choline apnea. Don't do any heroic deeds. Leave the patient, put the patient on ventilator, ventilate. That is the only treatment. And another group of drugs, non-depressive muscular blocking agents, I have already told, they compete with acetylcholine to one or both of the subunits of the acetylcholine receptors. That is why it is called competitive antagonist. The concentration of the drug present in the neuromuscular junction decides the binding site for these nicotinic cholinergic receptors. Even these two binding sites are there. Even one binding site is only one site is binded with non-depolarizing agent, the receptor will not work at all. It will not open the channel. The ionic flow will not be there. So it will be blocked. So these are all the commonly using in NDA aminosteroids: vecronium, rocronium and pipicurium. You can go and read in the books. I don't want to go into the details. The time is so short now. And these are all non-depolarizing benzyl isoconium receptors. This is mivacurium, atracurium, cisatracurium, daxacurium. We are commonly using this atracurium and cisatracurium. The mivacurium is not available in India, I think. So these atracurium and cisatracurium have a special metabolism that is called Hoffman reaction. There is a non-enzymatic degradation that directly proportional to the temperature and pH. It doesn't depend on liver and kidney for that metabolism. 50% of the drug is metabolized by this Hoffman reaction, and next further 40% by this non-specific plasma esters. So the metabolism is by organ independent elimination. So in those patients with kidney failure or liver failure, we can use these agents, atracurium and cisatracurium. And another important thing, the receptor upregulation and downregulation. The last slide for me, I will finish it. Upregulation means, what do you mean by upregulation? There is increase in the number of receptors. Downregulation means decrease in the number of receptors. So there is an upregulation. What happens? In the abnormal situations, there is increase in the number of receptors. In spinal cord injuries, stroke, burns, prolongedly immobile patient in ICU, and a patient with neuromuscular disorders, multiple sclerosis, I will finish, and Guillain-Barré syndrome. In those situations, there is increase in the number of upregulation. There is what happens, I have already told this is the culprit I think, I have already told, this immature receptors, fetal type of receptors, that will present throughout the muscle membrane occupies 99.9%. So what is the speciality of this receptor? Its opening time is 10 times longer and very small channels. So what happens? Sodium in and potassium out. So only more release of large dose of lethal dose of intracellular potassium is released after response to succinylcholine. That is the point we have to remember it. So in those situations you should avoid succinylcholine. That is the point of interest today. If you give this succinylcholine in those situations, the patient may go in for even for cardiac arrest. That has happened to me also. I mistakenly have given the patient and cardiac arrest happened. I scratched my head and then I striked out giving calcium. The patient was reverted and back to put the patient case cancelled and put the patient on ventilator and saved. This is my experience with this. And same thing, this down regulation, that is a decrease in the number of acetylcholine receptors in those situations, myasthenia gravis, anticholinergic poisoning, armaphosphorus poisoning. They are here, the point of it is what we have to remember is they are resistant to succinylcholine but extremely sensitive to non-depolarizing muscle agents. So you have to give less dose of non-depolarizing agents in those conditions. So to this, the motor unit and knowledge regarding neuromuscular junction, acetylcholine vesicle, synaptic cleft, acetylcholine receptors and voltage gated sodium channels, and mature and immature receptors significance, upregulation, downregulation, clinical significance, you have to remember it. And NMG pharmacology of muscle relaxation, go and read it. Classification and mode of action and their chemical nature. And the acetylcholine is the only drug, fantastic drug for RSSI situations, but beware of the complications of acetylcholine also, and non-depolarizing agents. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Neuromuscular junction kulle poittu andha mari irundhuchu. I don't think you will get so elaborate discussion about neuromuscular junction in your course, so make use of it. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kannan Bojara, sir, for your wonderful lecture. I request the respected chairpersons to honor Dr. Kannan Bojara, sir. We could hear the screams from your stomach. Kindly have lunch and come back in 30 minutes, as soon as possible.
We'll start the sessions rightly by 2:30 p.m. We have few more sessions to go. Please be on time.